Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast. It's not every day that we get a Hall of Famer on the show here, so this is a very exciting episode for me, not only because of who this person is and what he represents in the world of sports media, but I listen to him all the time on the Hoop Collective podcast, which is already one of my favorite pods. I get a little extra excited when I see his name pop up.
Get on Brian Windhorst. I haven't been on in a while, man.
Marc J. Spears, how you doing, my man?
Good. I'm out here in Dallas, a couple hours away from Game 3, and it's kind of like I think a finals defining game, right? Like if Dallas loses, that's it, right?
Do you have a favorite scenario in terms of you like of Game 5 in a 2-2 series? You like Game 4 in a 2-1 series? Yeah, Game 7's obviously fun. Like, is there anything that stands out to you?
I kind of feel like it's going to be 4 or 5 at this point. I don't think Jason Tatum's played great. I don't think Boston has had a solid game that they can have. That should be very, very scary for the Mavericks. And I think the thing that worries me the most, I mean, obviously Porzingis, if he's out, that's a huge loss. But they've been competing with him all playoffs for the most part, right? So they've proven to be successful without him. But I don't think Luka can be Luka. You know, like you could see it out there. He's shooting one-legged. He's not as swift to get his teammates involved, and the length and is bothering him, and he just doesn't have that ability, which I'm sure it has to be just really killing him inside, that his body is failing him at this level. But hey, we'll see what these drugs can to do for him, right? But he's going to have to be miraculous. Kyrie's going to have to be sensational, and I don't know if they dust off Tim Hardaway Jr., find Hardy, or somewhere else to get some points from him. But I think Luka did say it best. He's like, they're just not scoring well enough to win.
Yeah, and to beat the best offense in NBA history, you're probably going to need to put up some points. There's a lot I want to get to with you today, but I would be remiss not to at least start out with the very sad news that we learned earlier today about Jerry West. Again, you've covered the league for a quarter century. I was thinking about today. I don't know. Is there one individual? I mean, I don't know if the list is 5 or 10 people long who have had their fingerprints on the league more than Mr. West. So just maybe a few words on him before we get started.
Yeah, there's only a handful of people that when they walk into the NBA room, that the room stops. And he was certainly one of them. It was amazing to me, like kind of just watching him just operate, just how much respect he had for players in terms of, he always could connect with them. He might be old enough to be their great grandpa, but he could connect with them. Like I remember, Amen and Asar, I apologize. I know you're twins, but he was talking to one of them after a summer league game this last year. And both of those guys are great guys. There certainly was an instant respect there. But he was still like, would gravitate to whoever he thought was the next special player and get in their ear and give them some words of wisdom. And to say that you're the logo, like, come on, man. Like that's that's a coolness that only he had, right? And so he was an amazing player, Mr. Clutch, right? He
award named after him.
Yeah, outstanding exec. Got Kobe, got Shaq. Was very instrumental in what the Warriors were doing during their championship run of a couple years. And, just seeing his presence, seeing him around, it was just like this bright light that, and now that he's gone, it's not going to dim, man. He's a logo. He's iconic. He's a legend. And I'm sure there's, it's sad. This is the second finals where we're having a moment of silence for somebody, right? For a legend. So I'm sure there'll be some really amazing tribute for him, Mr. West, before the game tonight.
I'm sure. And even, putting aside the Lakers and all the other teams that he was, in touch with in some way over the years, just like as a rival, I was thinking about it earlier today. Like, how many better rivals have the Knicks had? I mean, I understand it was 50 years ago, but again, that's a short list, even though they only played really in the finals and then a couple times during the regular season. I mean, I hear from old heads all the time about those three finals that the teams played. And like, all due respect to Wilt, Jerry West was the guy they feared.
No, he was MVP of a finals that he lost.
Exactly. The only time that's happened. Yeah.
Now, LeBron James might argue that he should have got the same treatment in 2015, right? But he certainly had some sensational games against the old school Knicks, and I almost wish I could go back in time and sit in the garden and watch some of that. And that's the one thing that kind of pains me about the NBA, where I think is different than, say, the NFL and Major League Baseball is, the NBA didn't have I think it had the backing at the time to really film things like those other two leagues did, right? Like you see some great films with NFL films, fantastic, from like, I don't want to say like 75 years ago, right? Like perhaps, and you could see film of Babe Ruth. You could see film of Ted Williams. You could see film of Ty Cobb, right? It's just, basketball doesn't have that. So unfortunately, like, I don't think my generation, kinda, the younger generation, definitely not, don't really understand how great he was, because you have to see things visually a lot of times in order to appreciate it. And he certainly was that one of those players that I don't think gets his just due in terms of how outstanding he was.
Yeah, no, that is something I think about a lot, because as the years pass and the league obviously changes, and people, your Jokic's and your Giannis's and LeBron's and everybody come up and everybody starts, oh, well, this guy's a top 10 player of all time. That guy's top 15. You move some of these older players down. It's like, well, wait a minute, hold on. Like, we maybe shouldn't be so quick to do that. To your point about how the league was kind of late to really get a lot of this stuff on with footage, I find that to be even more of a reason to value some of the people that have been covering this league for a long time, and few have covered it as well and as extensively as you have. It's a quarter century now.
I still look young and handsome, though, right?
You look great. You're running around, going all over the country. You're in Dallas, the whole thing. What I'm fascinated by with you is in a media landscape where there's so much content, and it's so many of the takes are just kind of rustations of the same old thing. You have a way of covering this league which is wholly unique, and I find myself really, in particular, noting how I don't want to say it's that your level of access, but people have a way of opening up to you and have had a way of opening up to you over the years. And what I find particularly fascinating about that is it feels like that has gotten harder for someone an average journalist to really get to that place with, whether it's a player, a coach, a level, executive. I'm wondering, how do you do it? Because you're Hall of Famer for a reason. I don't know if you know how you do it, but I had to ask the question.
Hey man, does KFC tell you the 11 herbs and spices? You know what I'm saying?
That's very fair.
It's all relationship built, right? Like I was lucky, even in my little piddly college basketball career, to have like cross paths with people that were going to be in the NBA. Like I fouled Steve Nash hard in the game. I've known Steve Nash since I was like 20. Played against Lamont Murray, saw Brent Berry, saw different people young, and those people introduce you to the next people. And then, I'm 6'6", so I'm a big guy. So I think perhaps, they remember me. Remember Antonio McDyess, when I covered the Nuggets long ago, say I could tell you used to play by the questions you asked. And so I just always been intrigued by them being more than an athlete, trying to find out more about the player. Like, if they're nice or not, you know their game, but what do you know about them? And so I like to dig deep and get behind the curtain and, tell you things that other people can't tell you. But it comes with my experience. It comes with my trust. It comes with my connections. I'm blessed to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm in a Heat locker room, and Kyle Lowry's like telling Jaquez, "Hey man, it's a Hall of Famer right there." And that's volumes for me. I try to do a good job of trying to know a lot of these players before they get to the NBA. Right? I already know Alex Sarr. I already know Ron Holland. Several other young players that are coming in. I already know. And as when I was young covering the league, being around the Denver Nuggets and other teams, I would be in the same clubs, so you can kind of connect that way, right?
Yeah.
Cool. I don't want to be the old dude in the club now, man. So I'm not. And I don't even know if they do clubs anymore. They like dinners and DJs.
I think they do, right? I hope they still do clubs.
I think the club scene is dying, man.
That's sad. That's sad.
No, it's just I think after all these years of writing these kind of stories, people feel like, hey, Mark, you could trust Mark with this. And I always thank people for allowing me to get to some of the personal things in their life. And so hopefully my reputation has allowed me to open those doors.
And it's funny that you say that, because you say you go for the personal angle and maybe not the overt, obvious basketball angle. And yet in peeling back the surface, and again, that's just because there's so many stories about these guys, you learn more about what the stuff that really matters. Again, if you're a fan like me, who I root for the Knicks, I want to hope the Knicks do well. Well, finding out what kind of people are in the locker room. I was reading back today, your story you wrote about Josh Hart after the trade. You open with an anecdote about him and his wife. Had nothing to do with on the basketball court. So I want to know, like, in finding more out about them behind the scenes, do you find that better informs your ability to analyze the sport? What teams are going to probably maybe do well, what players are going to do well, so on and so forth.
Yeah, no, it kind of helps and maybe what's painting them in certain situations. Like, I know this was a tough year off the court for Damian Lillard.
Sure.
He's talked publicly about going through divorce, and I've, talked to him about it. Like, for example, the thing that intrigues me about Paul George's, free agency is, his mother, she's able to come to games in Los Angeles, and she's in a wheelchair. And so to be able, for his mom to be able to, like, not to have to get on a plane and travel with her challenges, I'm sure the Clippers, handle their business financially with him it makes it more enticing to stay, because the family aspect of it, and so I'm really like, hey, look, Adrian Wojnarowski does an amazing job breaking news. I used to be in that battle.
You still break some news every now and then.
I'll let you know.
I'll
let you know every now and then, right? And then a lot of ways you could break news through stories, telling people like, hey, I had a story on Charles Lee today. I didn't know if people knew he was coaching Summer League, but he's going to be coaching the Hornets Summer League team. So you could break news and feature stories for any young journalists listening. But no, I just but I did play. I played in college. I feel like I know the game pretty well. I feel like I have a good eye of talent. So I think oftentimes my ability to write these feature stories probably overshines what I at least I think I know about the game. I think I have a great basketball IQ. Others may say different, but
I'm going to push back on that, because again, look, I like listening to people just because I like spending time with them on a podcast. But I mean, I think I speak for a lot of people these days, especially I have, wife, kids. I only have so many minutes. If I'm going to listen to someone, I'm going to want to listen to someone who knows what the hell they're talking. Like, every time you appear on a pod, I know I'm getting something that I didn't have before in terms of my knowledge. And that is, I mean, that's really at the end of the day what I think people are drawn to, in addition to the way you go about your business. So you got the double barrel there. Speaking of stories that you wrote a wonderful one. You wrote quite a few about the Knicks this year, one of which was on Jalen Brunson. And the word I think to come away from that story with was humility. And you wrote it right at the beginning of the playoffs, and how here was this superstar who was taking New York by storm, but never forgot his roots. It's just, I mean, forgot his roots. How could he forget them? His dad is sitting right behind him or next to him on the bench. I know you know as well as anyone the trials and tribulations that this franchise has been through over the last 20 years. How much do you associate Brunson's arrival and how he goes about his business with their ability to get to a place where they seem like they're in a pretty good spot right now as a team?
Yeah, when I was covered a couple of their games in the regular season, and didn't get to a playoff game, which I wish I did, man. It just those games. You would have swore those were NBA Finals games, the intensity of it, and I know there were a lot of people wishing the Knicks were in the conference finals, but
I'm one of them.
yeah. No, I'm really happy for him. Like, I'm in Dallas, right? This is where he was, and Dallas basically didn't want to give him the bag that he got in New York, and what a great move by the Knicks. I feel like there was some interesting recruiting going on. Like, all of a sudden, these Knicks players and executives were at Mavs games.
Coincidence?
Oh, hey man, they like being in hot Dallas at the time, right? Hot and muggy Dallas. Yeah. But it worked. He's there. He loves it there, and he's not Reggie Jackson, right? He's not Lawrence Taylor. He's not one of the loud personalities that
Joe Namath, if you want to go back a little bit more of a ways.
Or the current Jets quarterback who has a lot to say.
We don't have to talk about him.
Yeah. He just wants to hoop, man. He just wants to hoop, which is it's refreshing to hear that and see that. And it's refreshing and cool to see him play with his Villanova buddies. They love each other. They chide each other. It's fun seeing them in the locker room, like giving each other a hard time. And a lot of stars aren't like that, but he seems uncomfortable with star, right? And the thing about the Knicks fan, I know, like, I keep hearing, like, we got to get somebody else. We got to get this star. I'm like, but what are they healthy? Like, if that team is healthy, if that team has Julius Randle, there's a great chance that, well, I don't want to say great chance because I don't want to disrespect the Pacers, but they could have beat the Pacers.
I mean, OG going down in the end of the game.
Healthy, I would have picked him to, So, I mean, I'm a big fan of Julius Randle. Got to know him pretty well. Amazing guy.
You wrote a great feature on him, by the way, around Christmas time about all that he was doing in the community and about what that in particular meant to him as someone who, his words, not yours, he grew up in a household where Christmas, like, you had each other on Christmas. You didn't necessarily have presents under the tree.
What they say, Christmas missed us.
Christmas, there you go. That's it. Great line.
Yeah. So, no, I just, you got the star. He's there. Jalen's there. To me, he's a star. Is it because he's not loud enough that maybe he's not viewed that way? I don't know. But I'd like to see him and Julius healthy together and continue to put the complementary pieces around them.
I'm curious because, again, no one's has a better feel for what wins basketball games in this league than you do. We've heard and seen from the outside all about this revamped culture in New York. You can talk about Tibbs and the buy-in and how these, okay, you mentioned the Nova thing, how these guys like each other and grow up together, the whole thing. I had Monica McNutt on the pod a few weeks ago, and she, said the line, must protect the culture at all costs. How if you were running the Knicks this summer, how much would you be paying attention to, all right, maybe there's a talented player we could add here or there, but what we have going on here as far as the DNA, the fabric of this team, that's the most important thing that we have going for us, in addition to Jalen Brunson being, as you said, the 1A star.
To me, like, when you look at the Celtics, they're patient with their two stars and they just continue to build around them and find pieces around them. Then, you get a Derek White, right? You get an Al Horford. You get lucky and you get a Drew Holiday. And I just like that mentality, these get rich quick schemes. Look at the Suns, right? What did it do to your neighbor, over by the Brooklyn Bridge? Like, what did it do for them? It didn't work a couple times. So to me, it's, win a championship, three things have to happen. You have to be great, you have to be lucky, and you have to be healthy. And the health thing is something that you can't really control. It's, it's God's will there, right? So I just think that now, the weird thing that I never really understood, and this probably make to the ire of Knicks fans, is like that people were scared to go there because the bright lights of the Big Apple, right? Like I remember how much people respected Melo and Amari for going there when others were scared to go there. Like I never understood why somebody wouldn't want to play there, especially if you were elite. Like, I always wonder what it would be like for LeBron in a Knicks uniform if he would have gave that a chance. Like, and he certainly was great enough for those that atmosphere. Like, what would it have been for Durant?
Well, you mentioned Durant, and you made some waves last summer when you made a comment about Durant. Like maybe you should have gone to the Knicks.
You got it written down, man. I forget all my stuff, man.
I got to do my homework. I got Mark Spears going on the pod. Come on.
I probably did say that. He should have. I mean, look, I mean, hindsight is what it is, right? But Durant is, to me, underrated. He's one of the most special players in the league. He could score in his sleep. He scores real easy. He has a coolness of him that embodies like the dudes from the 70s, right? Like those
Gervin.
Cool cats. Yeah, like I think he would have been special. And, Kyrie certainly had some influence on him that convinced him to, go in a different direction. But I really wish the Knicks fans would have seen him there because, me being in the Bay Area, getting to see him up close for 3 seasons, one of the greatest things I've seen in my career is watching him.
I mean, one more on the Knicks, and then I want to talk about Kendall-Jackson a bit and the exciting partnership that you have going on. Because of how electric the Garden was last year, for sure. I mean, the Cavs series was a lot of fun. But I think really this season and how the Knicks were in a lot of ways. Look, I'm biased, obviously, but I think they were one of the real talks of the league for a solid couple of months where they just kept losing bodies and they kept figuring out ways to win games. Do you think maybe this is, and again, it's like, I'm going to ask a question, like finally the time where some big name is going to say, all right, I want to go there to be a part of that. But at the same time, it's like, well, maybe they don't want to upset the apple cart. Like, do you foresee a player at some point in the near future saying, hey, maybe I want to be part of this thing?
Yes, no question, because it looks fun now. It doesn't seem as intimidating. And I even like, kudos to the Knicks for bringing the former players here. I thought that was like the coolest thing to see.
The OGs, yes.
Yeah, I talked to Melo about it. I talked to Steph and Marbury about it. And like, they were having fun. They really, really enjoyed it. And, hopefully that's something that they'll continue in the future. It just seemed like the uncles all sitting there like watching it, right? Like it was. I thought that was great to see. I mean, the celebrities that are coming are the celebrities that I was like, you should just put an alternate cam on them that we could watch and just to see all their reactions and stuff like that.
Maybe the most fun moment of the playoffs was after the DiVincenzo, the double bang, right? 3 that beat Philly in game 2. You had Melo, Sprewell, and then and John Starks right there, one after other, like just getting excited.
Melo
like
told me he didn't really know Starks that well.
Really?
Yeah, he said he saw him at games and stuff like that, but they never really had an opportunity to talk. So he said he really enjoyed sitting next to John Starks and kind of getting to know him a little bit.
That's great to hear. It was great. You mentioned Stephon Marbury. He is a guy who had not been around really since I understand it didn't end on great terms there.
But you know what? He's I'm proud of him, man. Like I went to China and interviewed him after he got a statue, after he got his 3 championships. He credits me for reconnecting him with the NBA, especially like Adam Silver after he kind of felt things were, certainly splintering with David Stern. And now he's like their Asian ambassador. Anything to do with Asia, he'll be attending. And I think it just means the world to him to be still connected in this league. I actually think the Hall of Fame should consider him as an international candidate.
I was just going to ask you.
Which is a little different. But
do his NBA, because he has some NBA accolades too, obviously, a couple, all NBA teams like.
Yeah, I think he should be, listed because I don't know that there's ever been a candidate like him who had NBA success and international success. He's a black dude with a statue in China, man. Like, come on, man.
Are there not many of those?
You should get in the Hall of Fame just for that alone.
Just for that.
A black dude with a statue in China from Cody Island, like that's historical. And he got two of them.
I'll say this. It things kind of went sideways after he got, to the Knicks, but I will never forget the day that they traded for him and Penny Hardaway, another player had quite a run for a bit. I don't think I've ever been as excited as a Knicks fan as I was that day. I was a teenager, obviously, but I was like, okay, we finally got a guy. We got a guy, first time since Ewing, and for a while it was pretty fun.
Yeah. And when you hear some of the players talk about Marbury, like they talk about him with reverence, like, and I've talked to KG about what it would have been like if he had stayed in Minnesota.
What did KG say?
He said Steph wanted out, right? Like, but Steph has told me, he said it had nothing to do with money. It had nothing to do with role, which maybe Kevin would disagree with that, but he said it had a lot to do with the weather. And he said he spun out a few times and almost died and just didn't like. New York, it can be pretty bad in the wintertime. And I was there during All-Star Weekend a few years ago and froze my tail off. Minnesota's still a different level. So he blamed it on their weather as being the main reason he wanted out.
That's one viewpoint.
We got to get him on the Knicks Film School, man.
I would love. I see him going on.
How about this? I'll help you with that.
I would love that. I see him going on. My good buddy CP on Knicks Fan TV. He does a great job getting all kinds of former players. But I'm just happy to have Steph back around because he is a great ambassador of the game, and he's a Coney Island kid, which is it's great to see him where he is now. I want to spend a couple minutes here because the reason we were able to get you on today is you recently partnered up with Kendall-Jackson, who obviously Kendall-Jackson Wines, and they are now, I guess, the official wine of not only the NBA but the WNBA as well.
And USA basketball.
Yes, and when I saw the press release, I'm like, well, this is perfect because again, you are someone who goes behind the scenes. You want to get the personal story from players. And it mentions in the press release all of these players who have not only love wine, they have their own wines, including Josh Hart. He's a big wine head. So talk to me a little bit about it. Like, how did this come about? Like, what's the deal?
No, as you mentioned, the NBA had that deal with Kendall-Jackson Wines, which I think is brilliant. When I think of athletes who drink wine, I think about NBA players first. So to be the official wine, I think is certainly huge for Kendall-Jackson, which has, over 50 wineries all over the world. Certainly amazing high-level wines. And so to me, being a Bay Area kid who got to taste wine from Mirasu Winery as a baby, well, not a baby, that don't sound good to my parents, right? Like probably around 8, my dad let me taste it because we used to go pick up wine there. And I just loved it and always had an affinity for wine. And so when they called me and asked me if I could help bridge the gap between Kendall-Jackson and the NBA, man, come on, man. This is like, I thought covering the NBA was cool. I write about basketball for a living. Now I get to, drink wine for a living too. And so it's been an amazing partnership. Last week, we had a outstanding wine dinner with Kendrick Perkins, where Kendall-Jackson brought in wines from 2008 from Freemark Abbey and Cardinal to celebrate the 2008 championship and reflect on that. And Perk told some amazing stories over a beautiful wine dinner, a place called Primo. And then tomorrow we're doing a wine dinner with Dirk Nowitzki. 2011 championship. I know people are like, how can I get a ticket? It's private event. But yeah, I'm going to speak to Dirk for about 30 minutes about 2011 while doing a wine tasting with our sommelier, whose name is Larry O'Brien.
You're kidding me, right?
No, real talk. That's his name. That's the man's name is Larry O'Brien.
It's pretty cool.
And so we're going to have an amazing time tomorrow. And so there'll be events for USA Basketball, WNBA Finals, but to be the guy to be connected to that through this Bay Area company, that has amazing history. Jess Jackson, the founder, and the family, and man, it's I mean, to write about hoop and then to write it, to talk about wine. I'm good right now, Hoss. Lord loves me a little bit right now. I'm in a good place.
I have one more about the wine, just because I promised myself I would ask it. Did you ever witness one of the pop wine dinners, or have you ever heard a good story from one of those or anything along those lines?
Perk was amazing last week. Perk was amazing.
I'm sure he had some stories.
He had one interesting story, which I'll share, where, Kevin Garnett didn't sign autographs. He just put 5 on balls because
nice.
he got disillusioned with people selling his autographs.
That makes sense.
And so Perk was saying that one day, governor of the team, Whit Grosbeck, came up to Garnett and complained to him about not signing autographs. Garnett said, I'm not doing it. And he goes, well, Amari Stoudemire's available in Phoenix. Maybe we should go get him. And he said, go get him. And he walked out, went and worked on his jump shot. And apparently Wick went out there and apologized profusely. It's not the guy you want to get mad, man. And kind of calm that down. But I will tell you this, I also have a Josh Hart wine story.
Oh, please.
Yeah. When I was going to the bubble, I told Josh that I had a wine. See, this is like, you guys be like, this dude is
oh, we love Josh Hart.
No, well, both of us are over the top with wine. I had a wine suitcase that I brought to the bubble. There are such things as a wine suitcase, and I had 16 bottles in it. So I'm flying over, told Josh text Josh and told him I had a wine suitcase that I was bringing with me. And he goes, yeah, but do you have a wine fridge? I got a wine fridge in my room. And I'm like, oh man, I ain't think about that. So when I ordered one from not Circuit City, that's dead. I ordered one from Best Buy. Get off the plane, get all my bags, and I convinced the driver, who only had picked me up, to take me to the Best Buy by the bubble before I went in the bubble to get this wine fridge. And they basically didn't have it ready for me to go in. And you got to remember, this is COVID, so you couldn't just go in the store and buy it and all that. So they ended up sending it to the bubble, where I had to quarantine for a week. So apparently the wine fridge was sitting in shipping and everything for me to go pick up. Well, a day or two before I got out of quarantine, the wine fridge was gone. Don't know where it went. Still don't know where it went to this day. NBA didn't know where it went. And then suddenly, 2 days later, without explanation, another wine fridge showed up with my name on it and was better than the one I had ordered.
Do you know where that one came from?
I don't.
He's got a guardian angel somewhere out there.
No, I think somebody took it and somebody found out that knew that I was a writer. This probably wasn't a good thing to do. And so they ended up compensating me with something else. But Best Buy did say that they delivered it.
I hope you still have the wine fridge, or did you have to leave it there?
I left it there.
Well, somebody got a good wine fridge.
No, there was a nice older woman who used to make sure I had good breakfast and everything. So I left it for her.
Very nice.
There was some shady dude that was doing some cleanup stuff when we were leaving. I don't know. He might have took it, but hopefully she got it, because I did leave it for her.
If you're
there
out
was
there,
a lot of great furniture left behind, believe it or not. That I don't know what happened to all this stuff, but there was probably hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of furniture that was left behind, the things left behind that the Disney employees got to keep.
I imagine you can cover the sport for another 25 years, and there will never be another experience quite as surreal as the bubble was.
Look, man, I've covered NBA games all over. I mean, basketball all over the world, covered the Olympics. I'm going to do my second Olympics. I've been to the Basketball Africa League, and nothing like the bubble. Nothing. And I actually enjoyed it. I think the players are kind of being a little bit of baby in terms of like, you know, they were complaining about the food, although they got all the good restaurants, and we'd walk out of practice and there's some dude in a chef hat making fresh meals for them.
Oh, that's nice.
Where we had like the cafeteria meals with the media. Like we had no choice. It's like, this is what you get. I had to get a toaster oven to like warm my food up. Like our food wasn't like, their food was like majestic. Our food was like elementary lunch.
I was about to say like Hungry Man dinners or something along those lines.
No, about a step above.
Okay.
You know,
I liked Hungry Man growing up. I was always.
No, it was all right, man. Salisbury steak.
There
you know. And the fried chicken actually wasn't bad. You had to doctor it up a little bit, put some hot sauce on it. But.
I was about to say that didn't the fried chicken used to come with like the brownie inserted into the little.
Yeah, the apple pie was good too. You burn your inside of your mouth, but it was
worth it. Yeah. We could sit here talking about Hungry Man dinners and Salisbury steak for a while longer.
And Kendall-Jackson Wines too. We could be here talking about that as well.
So anyone watching on YouTube right now can see what we just put up. You could learn more about Kendall-Jackson at www.kj.com/NBA. You could obviously follow Kendall-Jackson on all social media platforms with the handle at KJ Wines. And of course, follow Marc Spears at Marc J. Spears.
And I would be remiss in not saying real quick that in the bubble, Kendall-Jackson actually sent a bunch of wine to them to the bubble, which later led to this deal. And they were having Psalms on Zoom, teaching wine class, tasting classes and stuff like that with the wines that they donated.
Do you know enough about wine that you would be able to teach one of those classes? That's the real question.
I could fake it.
That's all that matters. It's more than I could say. I'm 41. I keep saying one of these years I'm going to get to know enough about wines to be a respectable adult in society, and it hasn't happened yet. Maybe
like Psalm Light. I'm not quite a Psalm, but I'm Psalm Light.
Okay, Psalm Light's pretty good. That's listen, NBA Hall of Fame or Psalm Light. That's a nice combination, you know.
Yes, sir.
Marc J. Spears, I can't tell you how honored I am to have had this experience, to be able to spend a few minutes with you here.
Man, it's my pleasure, brother. It's fun.
Well, it's a lot of fun for me too. I'm glad it's fun for you. I end every show by asking the guests if there's anything they want to plug or promote. I mean, everybody knows where they could find you, but I'll ask it anyway.
I'll say this. You come into the Bay, there's so much great to see, but you got to go to Santa Rosa, Sonoma, Napa, and visit all the different Kendall-Jackson wines that are there. Like it's an experience. And I think a lot of people don't understand with wine, like even like in typical cities, maybe they have, you know, some tasting rooms and this and that. No, when you go to Napa Valley, when you go to Sonoma County, it's an amazing experience. You know, beautiful mountains and places that have history, and even like caves and stuff like that. Like all these different wineries have, their own story. And Kendall-Jackson has them not only in the Bay Area, it's in Santa Barbara, Oregon, Washington. You could go to Italy and, South Africa, Australia, France. So like, just, Kendall-Jackson is more than just one wine. It's a bunch, La Creme is, there's literally over 50 you could choose from. So when you come to the Bay, man, you got to go. You got to come up and visit us up in wine country, man. It's life changing.
I was speaking life. I was about to say
I got you hooked up, brother. If you come out, I got you.
They call those life goals.
And your producer, my man, I got both of y'all. Y'all hit me. You come out, I got you.
You know what? We might have to take you up on that at one of these. Off
I'm
season.
being for real, man. I know. I happen to know the folks at Kendall-Jackson. I got y'all.
We will get back to you on that one. Again, Marc J. Spears, living legend, Hall of Famer. I just can't wait to continue reading everything you write, listening to any pods you're on, watching you. Obviously, you do it all, and just thank you for covering the sport like you do. It's a real pleasure.
Appreciate the love, brother. Well, I'll be back on. Have me on next season.
We'll book it. How about that?
All right. Sounds good, man. Thanks for your time.